You're listening to HowStreet.com radio, available online at TalkDigitalNetwork.com. Welcome to HowStreet.com radio, the online source for market opinions. Here is Jim Goddard.
My guest is Mark Leibovit, editor and publisher of the Leibovit VR newsletters, also known as VRTrader.com. He's speaking to us from Arizona. Welcome back to the show.
Glad to be here, Jim. Thanks for having me.
Mark, what's going on with the stock markets right now? No big major October correction yet.
No, and I just put a little caption on my newsletter the other day. You know, it's obviously being orchestrated to some level. You know, you've got a political situation going on, election coming up in a couple of weeks. You know, I'm a firm believer that markets are manipulated. So, you know, I'm not the commentator in this regard. No one wants to talk about it, but you know, I think they're being supported, and, you know, we got the plunge protection team and others out there. Everybody knows there's supposed to be a shakeout in October, and, you know, you still have a couple of weeks left in October. I mean, anything could still happen here between now and the election. You know, the market leaders like NVIDIA broke out. Apple, on the other hand, is pulling back a little bit off its highs, getting a lot of mixed signals here. The focus seems to be on uranium and lithium stocks and energy-related stocks that are building, you know, nuclear or related to the nuclear situation. So, you know, like Constellation Energy and so forth, where, you know, big companies have supported them to build needed energy for the AI and other computer necessities. So, you know, the focus has been more on that. For the most part, you can't argue with the fact that the Dow keeps inching up to new highs. Not all indexes are confirming, but you know, it's not following the normal pattern. You know, we didn't really get the shakeout, and I think again it has to do with you know, the seasonality into the election and possibly some, you know, political influence here. So you know, those who just stayed long, the indexes, you know, weathered the storms. They're doing best, but if you're not doing that and you're picking individual stocks, you really got to be in the right ones. And there's only really a handful that really, you know, follow the, you know, the high-end speculative fever here that, you know, if you're looking for action, that you would be in. So those are the names that I'd refer to, like, you know, uranium, lithium, and so forth. You know, gold's holding up pretty well. And, of course, we got the BRICS meeting coming up. So that makes a lot of sense. Bitcoin had an uptick a little bit this week, and that may be related, crypto in general may be related to the BRICS meeting coming up. Energy, you know, is falling flat on its face short term. Crude oil down, even though I'm a bull long term. You know, much has to do with the focus on nuclear power and alternate energy, which obviously puts a damper on the crude oil market short term, but long term, I don't think it changes it. I just think we're in a corrective phase, and we also obviously have, you know, geopolitical issues still going on. There's wars everywhere, and not much coverage and talk about that in terms of its influence in the marketplace. So it's like the focus on the financial press and television is earnings of companies and what the Fed's going to do or not do in November, and all that nonsense. You know, we got really serious situations going on around the world, the geopolitical wars, and of course BRICS and other things that could affect the market. So, you know, I'm trading, but I'm keeping a relatively low profile in the market. I'm not sitting here fully invested. I think the market is discounted or trying to discount a Trump victory. I think that's another possibility here too, to answer your question, because markets are very good at anticipating the future, and I think, you know, there's a good chance he's going to get in based on what the market is telling us. I think if Harris gets in, I think the market's going to sell off, but I don't think that's what's going to happen. I think the market's anticipating the reality that the Democrats are headed out the door.
Now, before we go any further, can you confirm there's a special offer for our listeners?
For new subscribers to VR Trader, that's Victor Robert, VRTrader.com. VR stands for Volume Reversal. That's my technical tool. They get 50% off using the promo code 2022 half off. And I also try to make that disclaimer about me not being a financial advisor nor providing financial advice, just as a disclaimer for regulatory purposes. I'm just a newsletter writer, commentator.
And we'll have more with Mark Leibovit, who is neither a financial advisor nor a guru. I don't think you've ever been one of those.
I think I'm a guru, though.
Oh, okay. He is a guru. See?
So, some people claim that I am. Of course, I'm a former elf from the old Louis Rukeyser show, so somebody thought I had some type of magical power somewhere. So thank you.
Yeah, meditate on this. We'll be back with Mark Leibovit right after this.
Don't miss out. Stay informed. Receive the HowStreet.com weekly recap with thought-provoking podcasts, radio, and articles delivered to your inbox. Sign up for the HowStreet.com weekly recap on our homepage at HowStreet.com.
Welcome back. We're speaking with Mark Leibovit. Mark, if we end up in a major shooting war, not as if we don't have one already in the Middle East, centered around Gaza and now northern Israel and southern Lebanon, but also Iran is part of the mix, and China could decide it's going to claim Taiwan and change the name to Taipei. The Ukrainian conflict is going on. Are there any good stocks that take advantage of things like that? Say nickel, which is needed to make armor-plated anything.
Well, a lot of base metals have been doing well. One of the leading names in that group would be a name like Alcoa, which is aluminum, but that's been really strong. And I think a lot of it has to do with infrastructure and the expansion of the nuclear facilities and stuff that we've been talking about here a little bit. So kind of copper backed off, but it's starting to show some life again. And yes, the geopolitical thing is just not discussed. I mean, they have news bulletins on financial television about this or that, or what Putin is doing or not doing, but it's sort of interspersed. And, of course, there was apparently a Hamas leader that apparently just got assassinated that was reported in the last 24 hours. But I think if Trump gets in, I don't think the invasion of Taiwan is going to happen so fast. I think if the Democrats get in, I'm not saying it's going to happen tomorrow, but within a year or two, I think China is going to flex its muscles. So a lot has to do with the political outcome here. I don't want to say that Trump is the magic cure for everything, but the truth is we didn't have a Ukraine situation. We didn't have the Israeli war when he was in the administration. So I think to a certain degree, the Democrats are, not as proficient in world politics or really could care less, and they sort of stand for, one world government anyway. So they're not the patriots that I think the Trump followers are in terms of protecting our country. So yes, I know this is coming across political, but I think that's really the truth. I think they mismanaged international affairs. Look at Iran. I mean, Obama sending tons of money over there, placating that administration, giving them money, and now we find they were supporting in both Hezbollah and Hamas. Israel may have to be proactive and take out their nuclear facilities, or in a way sort of do the dirty work that the U.S. doesn't want to do or be accused of doing. But, these are really not factored so much in the markets. Of course, you can also argue that markets like war, it creates business and opportunity. Unfortunately, the history of the markets sort of say that. So, Vietnam War and others you can cite as examples. A lot of military spending, a lot of money being thrown around. So it's an unfortunate statement about the state of our world that, wars help support business and the stock market to a certain degree. So it's really, a mixed bag in how to interpret the results. Right now, infrastructure is being spent, nuclear is being expanded, and, I think we're on the right track there, and I just hope that we get a political change in this country that is pro-business and pro-America, not pro foreign interests.
What's going on the cryptocurrency front?
Bitcoin rallied a little bit this past week. Technically, it was still well off its highs. It got up into the high 60s. Breakout would be that 73,000 level, and I think much of this may have to do with the upcoming BRICS meeting. That's one of the reasons I think gold and silver to a certain extent has held up. So I think it's cyclical. I'm not saying this is the moment it's going to break out because of BRICS or not because of BRICS. I think, it's in a big overall uptrend, but we've learned from recent years that you get into these quiet periods after a big run up in particular Bitcoin. So you have to be patient, but it will break out above that 73,000 level. Can't predict if it's 2 weeks from now or a year from now, but it'll probably headed toward the 80s, 90s, or even 100,000. Or some forecasters are talking about $1 million potential for Bitcoin, because the amount of Bitcoin is halved every few years, and it's being used worldwide in terms of a currency. So it's now whether all of them are going to participate, that's the problem. Ethereum and XRP and hundreds of other names out there sort of track along with Bitcoin. And XRP had a little problem here this past week, where the SEC went after the parent company there that produces the XRP, and restarting, so to speak, some litigation against the company. So we'll see if that has any merit. It just seems like the SEC has it for the XRP group. But in any event, Bitcoin is sort of immune from that. It's on its own, and you've got big players, BlackRock and Larry Fink and all those ETFs and stuff that were created. So I'm not worried about it. I mean, it's like anything else. We look at it technically. It's on our list. We own the Bitcoin on paper, in our model hypothetical portfolio, and occasionally we'll put out some ideas on trades there, but the overall theory is it's going to go up. So you can argue any market's going to have a correction, and this one obviously has, but it's a lot of fun trading it. I know that. It really moves around.
Anything big on the geocosmic front? Apparently, I missed all the fireworks in the sky from the Northern Lights last week.
Well, there's something going on short term. There's always something going on short term with the solar flares and so forth. There was a bulletin today, increasing chance of flares. And I don't want to read all the reports. You can go to spaceweather.com. So there's always something going on there. In terms of the normal, geocosmics, in terms of the lunar cycle, we just hit a full moon, the last 24 hours or so, and we're in the time frame that, you can argue lunacy is running afoot here a little bit, and maybe, we're getting a little over carried away to the upside on the market. So I generally subscribe to the thought that when you hit these lunar cycles, whether it's a full moon or new moon, and the market's either overbought or oversold into those levels, you can get a little change of direction. I think the market was experiencing a little of that today in the last 24 hours. At the top of the show, you asked me, really what happened to the big correction or sell-off that we expect in October. And as I mentioned, maybe these cycles that I'm referring to may be triggering a little trading top here, and you may indeed get some type of pullback. So we just got to watch the tape and see what unfolds. But you do have some of the Magnificent Seven names, with the exception of NVIDIA, not really performing here. So some of the big names are getting a little tired. And as I mentioned earlier, money seems to be moving in other directions, toward other energy and stuff like that, not crude oil, but alternate energy. A lot of stocks in that sector that have been hot recent days. In fact, there's one particular company, LAC, made a deal with General Motors to supply, I guess, lithium in the years ahead. So it's a little cheap $3 stock, but it made headlines. So a big company like GM decided they want to assure themselves of a lithium supply going forward. So that became a little hot name here in the last 48 hours for traders. But more of that seems to be going on. So you got to sort of follow where the action is, and that seems to be where the action is at the moment.
Mark, I hope you don't have an EcoVac, a Chinese robot vacuum cleaner. Apparently they can be hacked, and they go around chasing your dog or making racial slurs. So something new to worry about in the geocosmic weirdo universe.
Okay. I will definitely avoid buying one of those robots, but if you get me one of those robots that would take my dog for a walk, that would be great.
Well, it'll call it names. I don't know if it'll call it the right name.
I'm open to any technology. I'll take a look at it, but I don't know if I could afford it. But thanks for mentioning it.
Mark, thank you so much for being on the show.
My pleasure. Thanks for having me, Jim.
My guest has been Mark Leibovit, editor and publisher of the Leibovit VR newsletters, also known as vrtrader.com. If you have any questions for Mark or for any of our guests, you can send them to info@housestreet.com. Our YouTube channel is Talk Digital Network. Find us on X @HouseStreet. We're also on Facebook. I'm Jim Goddard. Thank you for listening.
Comments made on HowStreet.com radio are an expression of opinion only and should not be construed in any matter whatsoever as recommendations to buy or sell any financial instrument at any time. Available online at TalkDigitalNetwork.com. HowStreet.com radio is a production of HowStreet Media Incorporated.